she was ready and had, a business acumen to get, get it going.
And she's a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old.
At the time, she was 20.
Wow.
She's insane. She's insane. The girl's a massive hustler. And that's a lot of the time what it takes.
Yeah.
It's like, put your blinders on, focus on your craft, be fucking bulletproof.
Yeah.
And know about your business. And a manager should be so lucky.
Yeah.
To get in your world.
Yeah.
A manager
should
be so lucky to be a part of your world.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Music Business Podcast. I am your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business, the book. Today, my guest is my very good friend, Andrew Leib. He is a manager at Red Light Management, and he has worked on the teams of Robert Randolph and the Family Band, Counting Crows, Three Doors Down, Emily King, Lecrae, Luke James, Cory Henry, Victoria Canal, Nu Deco Ensemble. Needless to say, he has worked with a lot of really awesome, incredible artists. And we get into a bit of his story. We talk about, what he looks for in artists that he wants to work with and how artists can hit up managers potentially if they think that they're ready. We dig into artist branding and his process on how to put your package together and really communicate to the world what your brand is. This is a very fun episode for me, being able to catch up and dig in with one of my best buds. Of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ari Herstand or at Ari's Take. And then please sign up for the email list. That can be found at aristake.com, where you'll be notified of all upcoming events and get regular information on the goings-ons in the music industry. Let's dig in. Andrew Leib, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Manager extraordinaire. I do want to talk about what's so interesting. Can you just tell everyone, so you're going to China in a little bit.
I'm going to China next month,
right. So whenever you're listening, people are listening, maybe you've already been to China, but you're soon to go to China. Tell us why you're going to China, because this is the fucking craziest story ever. And I think people are going to get a kick out of it. And it can be very inspiring on the lessons learned here.
It's a super, super wild story. So I'm going to China for a 9-city tour. The reason I'm going on this 9-city tour is because the first band I ever managed, who I started managing as a senior in college.
And where was this?
This was at Drexel University in Philadelphia.
Okay.
I learned everything through those guys. I did everything for those guys, from the management to the accounting to the graphic design to the driving the van to the merch to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Slept on floors, traveled the country. These guys were like my brothers, and I was kind of the fifth Beatle to them, and we did a bunch of amazing shit together. Eventually moved out to California, came out here, got a job at Red Light Management, signed them to Red Light Management. And, we, through a bunch of different, situations, recorded the record, got an agent, all that stuff. Eventually the band had some creative differences, decided to end the band, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
so they broke up.
The band breaks up.
When did they break up?
They broke up in 2015, maybe 2016.
And you guys all moved out to LA together from Philly.
Correct. Fast forward 5 years.
After they broke up.
Yep. I open my email and I see this email, one of the first Cheers Elephant emails I've seen in a while, from a woman named Skylar, being like, "Hey, I'm a huge fan of your band. Does the band have any plans of touring China? And if not, would they be interested?" And most people would throw this in the garbage instantly because it's either like phishing or a scam or something like
absolutely.
that. But
next to the Nigerian prince that you're going to be
absolutely, and I'm like, wait a second,
into your bank
Cheers
account.
Elephant, like there's no way.
Right.
But as maybe some people know, like China's pretty insular. It's hard to find data unless you're really looking for it.
Yeah.
They have their own Google. They have their own, like, what's the equivalent of Facebook and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all like very much like China only, usually.
Right. Yes.
And so I'm like, I have nothing to lose. They didn't ask for my credit card information. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. no, they don't have any plans of touring China, but if you want to send through an offer, like, let's talk about it.
Even though they had been broken up for 5 years,
correct.
You thought they might be willing to get back together for this thing?
And I'm slightly a romantic, like trying to get these guys in the same room was just like, I was like, guys, let's get a beer. We did so much stuff together. Like there was definitely some friction between a couple of band members and all that stuff. But you know, I get this thing, and like all of a sudden she sends over an offer for a 9-city tour of China. And so I'm like, I still don't believe this is real, but like talking to her on WhatsApp, talking to her on the phone, getting references to Americans that have been on some of these tours, as well as some promoters that have some connections. And I basically work it up to a place where this is absolutely legitimate. It's a real offer, and they're covering a fee, flights, trains within China, backline, meals, and accommodations. I get this offer, and to a point where it's like very real, and I get all the guys on text, which is like I've tried in the past. I was like, guys, I have some really wild news pertaining to your band. Do I have everyone's attention? And everyone quickly was like, yep. And I was like, well, I have a 9-city China tour offer with all these things included. This is the fee. This is real. I vetted it. And the question is, will you guys fucking do it?
Whoa.
And they all one by one said yes.
Oh my God.
And so I'm like, holy shit, like this is actually happening. And we started unpacking it, like when's the timing, what's going on, all that stuff. And we confirmed the tour. The guys have rehearsed a couple times. We're doing a kickoff show in LA, which is going to be super special.
Whoa.
And these guys are, everyone's heard of the movie Waiting for Sugarman or whatever, and Rodriguez, this artist, and like I feel like it's going to kind of be like that. I think the band, I don't know what's going to happen after this, but like it's going to be an incredible experience. All I'm focusing on is this LA show and this tour. This is just mainly like a fun bonus thing for me. I mean, everyone's making a couple bucks, but it's also just this band meant so much to me and defined so much of my early 20s and who I am now, that just to hear him play on stage again is going to be emotional. It's going to be special. And I'm really thrilled. That combined with the absolute surreal shit that's probably going to happen that we're going to see in China.
Right.
I just can't imagine, man.
That's what's so cool is that one thing that like I love about your story is that you are a very hands-on manager, and you have kind of come from the world of basically being in the band without being on stage with them. And a lot of the trials and tribulations that artists go through early on, you've been through being like on the road with them, like the fifth band member, and just kind of being a part of the band early on. And it's cool how it's kind of all come back around full circle now that they're like, you're kind of joining up forces again.
Yeah, man.
Years later.
Yeah, no, it was, I mean,
So
there's some
cool.
of and it actually generates a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
Because now you know what the long overnight drive is like,
Right.
and you know what the shitty venue with no people in it is like,
Yeah,
and you know
you
what the
felt
lack of tour manager and with the tour manager and like the different scales. And now, like over the past couple of years, I've seen a lot of different levels of it. That experience coming into Red Light and working with other bands was like no one had that real life experience unless you really tried to get after it, which I did early on.
Well, you have that empathy that I think is lacking with some people in the industry, especially with lawyers that I see it from, and even some, managers and agents who haven't really, or it's been some time since they've been actually on the ground getting their hands dirty with everything. Because it's a hard road for artists, doing it on their own initially, and then just kind of trying to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And Red Light is such a massive company. I think it's the world's largest management company,
largest independent management company. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many artists are at Red Light?
Probably at this point like 300.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And how many managers?
100 plus.
Wow.
Or something like that.
And offices in LA,
Nashville, London, Charlottesville, New York. And then there's a couple of satellite offices. Yeah.
So it's such a giant company, but what's cool about Red Light, what I dig, is that every manager kind of does their own thing, does it their own way, takes ownership over the project. So you don't really get like lost at Red Light, even though it's such a huge company, is because you have your manager,
Right.
your main manager. But because it's such a large network that you can link up with other people for support. If you need some help, you can just walk down the hall and be like, hey, do you know anybody at the Ellen show or whatever? And be like, oh yeah, I'll shoot an email, I'll make an intro for you right now kind of thing, which is really cool. And in terms, you've now done a lot of different jobs at Red Light. Not just, even though it's been at Red Light, it's been like over 6 years now?
Yeah, almost 6.5 years, yeah.
So you've been on the teams Counting Crows, and you've worked with Robert Randolph and Emily King, who you brought into Red Light. You've worked with Corinne Bailey Ray and Three Doors Down and
Cory Henry,
Luke James, Lecrae.
Yeah.
A lot of different artists, a lot of different genres, a lot of different capacities, major label, indie label, no label to a label, all of that stuff. What would you say is kind of the now seeing so much of it, being a college manager, learning just on the ground how to just set up a tour, let alone, how to survive on the road, to being in the room at major labels, negotiating contracts, doing record rollouts, single release rollouts, promoting massive tours with amphitheaters down to club tours. And now you're working with an incredible artist, one of my new favorites, Victoria Canal, who you're kind of basically, she's had a career, but she's like at this point where you're kind of, she's ready to launch and you're, can launch her. What would you say is kind of one of the biggest things that you've learned throughout this entire process in how you approach management with kind of newer artists like Victoria, pulling from all of this experience that you've had?
I think, well, first off, it's like, I still stand by the management's probably the most personal job within the music industry.
Okay.
Closest to the artist, I'm pretty sure they used to be called personal managers.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is. And in that way, I've learned that like you're going to deal with every level of this person that you're managing their business.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, there's a lot of trust that goes into these things, right? And in that way, when you develop these brands, because that's really what it is, you're developing a brand, and this brand with this artist, it really takes a deep, deep dive and like clearing the table, forgetting the past, and really figuring out what it is you're trying to accomplish, who you want to be, what do you want to be perceived as, what do you want to communicate. In the case of Victoria, when we started working together, one thing I've like kind of developed, and it's been like through the years of like, I guess just like building into this moment of like kind of a summit and a deep dive of like, Victoria, what do you want to be? And we did everything from like keywords to color scheme. I did it with the band I used to work with, Sure as well.
Oh yeah.
Keywords, color schemes.
You mean like, what do you want your brand to represent?
What do you want it to represent, and what do you want people to feel when they look at it?
Okay.
When they hear it. And you want to create those through lines. And I realized that people want to latch on to like themes with an artist.
What do you mean by themes?
When I say themes, I mean like you're the artist that does that, right? Lizzo is the artist that is all about body positivity and showing off her ass because she feels like she wants to.
Yes.
It's fucking awesome, right?
Yes.
That's
empowerment.
Her empowerment.
Yes.
That's her thing.
Female empowerment.
Right?
Yes.
Robert Randolph. It's very clear. He's the pedal steel guy. That's a party man.
Yes.
Like he's a good time, right?
Yes.
Cory Henry is a freak keyboard player, and he wants to bring like a funk assault to the venue.
Okay.
Like there's everyone, and those are the kind of more on the live side, and
Sure.
and Liz was one about like a theme of empowerment.
Yeah.
I I think we all need to find those things because we latch onto that. It's the music for sure, but we also latch onto the artist.
And the story.
And
really
the
is what it
story.
is. Like, what are you going to talk about
Right.
with your friends? Like, why is this artist interesting? Why
Right.
should we care about this artist other than we like her song?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, market the artist, not the song sometimes, which is really interesting. The idea is like, you know, the song is great and it is paramount.
Sure.
But what we really, really fall in love with, what we really connect to is Chris Martin, Lizzo,
Yes.
you know, Katy Perry, like the eccentric Lady Gaga. I mean, like a perfect example of someone that will, like, no matter what that woman puts out, she's always gonna have an audience because we know exactly who she is, what she stands for, what she does.
Because she built a movement based on what she stands for and who
correct.
she is. But it's not just who she is, because every artist is a very complex human being.
Correct.
And so, you know, Lady Gaga is a very talented singer-songwriter, great piano player, great singer, great writer. But like, as Stephanie before Lady Gaga, like, that wasn't as interesting. There's a million great piano playing singer-songwriters, no problem. And she created this persona and this movement based, you know, she created like the little monsters that she's created.
Yeah.
It's the whole community. And that is the world that, you know, obviously she spent time developing, but it can be on every scale.
Absolutely.
With every kind of artist, it doesn't necessarily just need to be
she really
a meat
just
dress.
She really just kind of, at some point, Stephanie
Yes.
sat down and said, what do I love about me? What do I want to communicate about me? And can I take those things and inflate them and pump them up and amplify them and make the heightened version of me? You know?
Yes.
I mean, we all have that capability.
Yeah.
Anybody, you know? Can you really, like I said, kind of like fan it all out and figure out what you love about yourself and what you love about humanity, music, whatever it might be, and communicate that through your music, through your marketing, through your video, your music video subject matter, through your Instagram, or whatever it might be. And I've kind of just learned that, like, it's not just like, all right, put music, like, let's see what sticks. Let's like do the photo shoot. Like, and I used to do that, but then, and it's not even, you mentioned the story. It's not like, I need the backstory, you know? It's like, what are you trying to communicate right now? It's, I mean, yeah, like a little bit of some, you know, exposition is always nice, but like, ultimately it's like, what are you going to stand up for right now on a regular basis?
And that becomes something that is, well, it's authentic to the artist. So you're not necessarily manufacturing this thing. It's just pulling out from the artist what at their core is really important to them, and to showcase those components that can then an audience can latch on to and join their movement.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Interesting. And so mechanically, logistically, how do you do this with artists? Because I've found that is one of the most challenging things for a lot of artists, especially artists that go by their own names. To do, because they just want it to be about the music. Sure. It's like, well, the song should speak for itself. Like, why do I have to think about brand? That feels so icky and inauthentic. But what do you like? So how do you do that?
So I like semi-developed this curriculum. I don't even know what you want to call it. Cool. A little, like I said, like a summit maybe, where Victoria and I, she's a good example. Cause she always struggled with, I mean, she's 21 currently, and she, through the years, through different managers, through different producers, through touring with different people, she's kind of wanted to figure out like who she really is. And, you know, so we sat down and I basically said, you know, what do you love about yourself? You know, what do you want to convey? Who are some comparables you love their careers? What do you love about their careers? Like we said, like the Lizzo thing. What do you love about Lizzo? You know, what do you love about John Mayer? What do you love about Sarah Bareilles? And you're pulling out these things. I love the musicianship. I love their live show. I love how John Mayer does his Current Mood show.
Instagram show.
His Instagram show. I love how Sarah Bareilles started a musical. I love, you know, all these things. It's like, what do you love about these people, and what do you kind of want to emulate? And to me, you can pick apart some of those things and then reverse engineer back and what you want to apply to your career. What colors do you like? What vibe do you like? Is it more of an earthy thing, or is it more of like a vector pointy thing? Is it like, we're making Pinterest boards and we're doing keywords, and then, I just say, I want you to think about what you want to convey and just start naming words, right? Start saying words. Sexy, cool, electric, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I say, I want you to distill it down to 10 words.
Wow.
And give me your 10 words, right? And then we lay out our 10 words. Okay, so from here on out, whenever you do anything for the next, foreseeable future, we're going to look at these words and see if they're kind of invoking some of that stuff.
So everything kind of stays aligned.
Yes, and stays on brand,
right? On brand, right.
Yeah,
right.
but it stays within your zone. So, because, it's so easy to get so distracted that, like I said, people want to attach on to like a theme.
Yeah.
And to me, I often look back at those words, and it's not always going to be your words.
Sure.
And usually an album cycle or something like that is a good opportunity to reset that and go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
You look at everybody, the Beatles, you look at whoever, they all had different, phases of their career.
Sure.
But I think it's important to be like, all right, guys, or when you're sitting with your team, this is what we're going to do for the foreseeable future, and latch onto it.
And it probably helps when you get offers that come in to know how to approach those, whether you're going to say yes or no to them based on if they align with what the vision that you've set out is. So it's interesting because she's done one of the more high profile things that she's done up until this point is the Nike campaign, where they've made a shoe because for people listening, Victoria Canal, she's a differently abled artist. She was born without one of her right hand, right?
Her arm from the elbow down. She was born with amniotic band syndrome.
Thank you.
And so that was a situation where that came to us. It was, of course, perfectly in line with something that she wanted to communicate, which is representation of all types of people,
right?
And advocating for people with disabilities. This is a Nike shoe, where you could basically slide it on and then fasten the laces with one hand. And it's like a Velcro type of setup, but it looks like a normal Jordan, basically.
Cool.
And that was something. It was totally in line, but it's one of the words that we had talked about with Victoria, or something that we talked about is just polished.
Okay.
We talked about a more polished approach.
Gotcha.
Not she still is authentic and can do stuff off the cuff with her iPhone, just filming whatever. But like we dug the idea of like a studio shoot and like a more polished thing and a cleaner look.
And that's awesome. And because the cool thing is there is no right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's about what does the artist feel most connected with,
most authentic.
Yeah. And so yes, and what? So like the visual aesthetic, is that going to match her music? But is it all gonna feel like her authentically? And that's what people will latch onto.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so, have there been other kind of things so far? How long have you been working with Victoria?
It's been probably 7-8 months or something like that.
Okay.
And during that brainstorm too, just to go back to it, we talked about keywords. We talked about strengths. We did a strengths and weaknesses thing.
Okay.
Which was, for someone that you don't like fully know yet, like, when we're working together, I'm telling her, like, we also talked about insecurities, things like that, because as her manager, I'm going to be on the front lines representing her and often being her voice at the beginning. And so there are certain things I know to look out for Victoria to make sure that she's comfortable. And no matter who you are, whether you are a young female, a disabled female, a guy in whatever age, everyone has these types of insecurities and things that we have to look out for. And as a manager, if you can like really get down to the root of it and be like, all right, this is something I will look out for you on your behalf. Like, don't put on the mask for the person that's the closest to your business.
Right.
Because I'm going to be out there protecting you, and you're going to have to trust that I'll protect you, but know that I'm going to make great decisions, ideally, on your behalf to make sure you're set up for a comfortable situation.
So, you essentially are like a best friend / family member / like therapist. Like, you have to get in and kind of know. You're saying like, what are your weaknesses? Like, what?
Super personal.
Yeah, it's very personal.
It was really, which that is a theme I've realized throughout my career with clients is like, I get to know them on a very personal level, which different managers have different tactics.
Sure.
of like, I want to keep it strictly business and like super transactional and like whatever. Like, of course you can talk to me, but like it shuts off at the end of the, whatever.
Yep.
Throughout the years, I've realized with Emily, with Cory, with a lot of these artists, we got like pretty close. And there, of course, are, pros and cons to that.
Sure.
But ultimately, like, you're both in the trenches.
Yeah.
And you're both like being super vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
you're business partners. You're in it together.
Yes. Yeah. And currently, my other client is the Nu Deco Ensemble.
All right.
And it's a 30-piece orchestra started by two creatives that are brilliant from Juilliard. We did a similar thing, and I really got down to like, what is it that like, how do you guys want to be perceived? What freaks you out? What are some of your goals? The 3, 5, 10-year plan? And really just like getting down to like the intimate components, because ultimately like we're going to be in the trenches.
Yeah.
I'm going to be fighting on your behalf.
Yeah.
We're going to be in uncomfortable moments. I'm going to fuck up. You're going to fuck up.
Yeah.
So like, let's just lay it all out on the front end. So there's no animosity that builds up and there's no sort of issues that could arise when it really counts.
And you did a similar kind of deep dive with them?
We went to Amsterdam.
You went to Amsterdam.
We went to Amsterdam.
Do you remember any of this trip?
No, the answer is no. I mean, we did like intense, probably 8-hour days, 10-hour days sometimes in this Airbnb.
Cool.
And really, that was an interesting one because there was a whole back catalog of collaboration content that we started.
So let's break down just so people a Nu Deco Ensemble. So this is a 30-piece orchestra, you said, based in Miami, Florida.
Yes, yeah. So I have 2 clients right now. So it's Victoria and it's Nu Deco Ensemble.
Okay.
And of course, we're developing a specific project.
Yes.
We can call that a client, more of an experience, which we could talk about at some point.
We'll dig in that later. Yes.
But Nu Deco Ensemble was started by Sam Hyken and Giacomo Byros with the intention of starting an orchestra for the 21st century.
Okay.
And they met at Juilliard and they decided that they wanted to start this ensemble because they've done the typical path, philharmonics, symphonies, session work, whatever. They wanted to do something that totally represented the classical world, but also represented contemporary compositions and new music. They also wanted to do collaborations with some of their favorite artists. Both these guys, Sam is like a huge hip hop head and a funk head and rock and all these. They love all sorts of genres. So the idea was to create a program that featured new music, suites that Sam arranged. Sam's a brilliant arranger with like relative pitch, but like essentially perfect pitch. The guy's a freak of nature, and he'll do like LCD sound system suites and Aretha Franklin suites and Daft Punk suites. So imagine like a girl talk mashup performed by a 30-piece orchestra.
Whoa.
I mean, it's bonkers. Yeah. And then the last component is these collaborations. And that's how I got to know these guys, because they reached out to Emily King, and we did Cory Henry, we did Luke James, and in the past they've done Jacob Collier, Ben Folds, Kishi Bashi, a bunch of different artists. And so Wyclef. Yep. This season was Wyclef Jean, Lake Street Dive, Hooray for the Riff Raff, Rev Run. Yeah, and we're booking a couple others. Sema Funk was another one.
Kimbra, I think.
We've done Kimbra in the previous seasons. Yeah. So like the idea is that they do about 9 programs a year, and it ranges from 1 to 2 shows a weekend.
And these take place
in Miami.
But in what kind of venue?
So they're Miami based, and they vary from 300 cap rooms all the way up to a like 2,000 seater, which is the Adrian Arsht Center in Miami.
Wow! So like a
beautiful concert hall.
Yeah, concert hall. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So and it varies depending on the artist, but they do a couple shows at the Arsht. They do a couple at the New World Center, which is like a 700, 800 cap room, and they do this place called the Citadel, which is like a 300 cap place.
Cool. And so, so that's interesting, because they'd been going for how long when you stepped into the project?
So they're on their 5th season, and I came in at the beginning over the summer as they were getting ready to prep for their season. And I'd known the guys for, at that point, like a year or so. And I met Sam, and they were like, because mainly orchestras, I've learned, are nonprofits.
Okay.
They're very expensive endeavors.
Sure.
Because we're talking lots of people, and sometimes we're talking union and stuff like that. We're not union, but we're talking to lots of people. We're talking lots of gear. We're talking big venues. We're talking big budgets, whatever. And a lot of arts donors out there, and the city and all sorts of people are giving money to make sure that these things exist because it's important for the arts community in each of these cities. And there's usually an orchestra, some sort of thing in each city, major city.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Orchestra, Boston Pops.
Sure.
So these guys wanted to be that for Miami. Even though there is a Miami Symphony, they wanted to be the like hip younger brother of the Miami Symphony.
Cool.
And they decided that the best route would be to be a nonprofit. And they're in their 5th season. They get over like $1.5 million a year in funding.
Wow. Just from individual donors.
Donors,
community there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And grants,
Cool.
things like that. And they found that was their best model.
Okay.
The give back component is they've started a youth orchestra.
Nice.
They provide free tickets and concerts to different types of neighborhoods in Miami.
So what is a manager like yourself from Red Light Management? Does Red Light represent any other orchestras?
No, we represent like the Preservation Hall Jazz Band is probably
cool.
one of the closest things.
But that's still a band that plays Bonnaroo.
Totally.
Nu Deco's not going to do Bonnaroo.
I saw this thing as an opportunity.
Maybe.
I met with Sam and we had this conversation, and he was just like, I just want to pick your brain on like where this is going. We're in the process of recording an album. We don't really know what to do with it.
Huh.
We don't, and I'm talking to him and I was like, so where's all the video content?
Yeah.
We film and record every show. I was like, where is it? He's like, we have it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what are you doing with it?
Right.
He's like, I mean, we don't really know. We got to figure it out. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Right.
Like you're sitting on, he's like, yeah, we're sitting on about 8 hours of unreleased collaboration content, new music work, and these suites that I was talking about, the Daft Punk and LCD Sound System.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit. Like what an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
To like be the orchestra, the collaborative orchestra, the reimagination orchestra that these artists come in and can spread their wings creatively. And what really struck me was when Emily went and I saw her face kind of light up.
Emily King.
Yep. When I saw her face light up, hearing her songs for the first time with an ensemble that she wrote in her mom's kitchen.
Yeah.
Like that was a really special moment.
Wow.
So I was like, yo, like, why don't you capture the rehearsal and make like a mini documentary about each of these shows?
Cool.
And it's a series all of a sudden where you're telling the story of Nu Deco.
Yeah.
And you're telling the story of these artists who typically play club dates or, amphitheaters, whatever it might be, but are stepping, outside of their comfort zone.
Wow.
Another thing I realized too is that Sam often does not share his arrangements with the artist before they get there.
Oh, cool.
There's a shitload of trust that goes into Sam.
Yeah.
Right? And then of course Giacomo is like the conductor who's like making sure everyone's comfortable and being like, are you good? Do you need anything? Should we extend this section, whatever?
Yeah.
They're a great team. And it's this really special experience that often I've found people come away, these artists come away being like transformed and invigorated and super creative. In the case of Wyclef Jean, like, so he rolls in and he's done stuff with ensembles, but the difference between us and a normal orchestra is we have a dope rhythm section with real players.
Cool.
That can really groove.
Rhythm section, you mean like drummer, bassist,
bass,
guitar?
keys, guitar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like a real core band.
Cool.
Surrounded by string players. And then our arrangements are super unique and lend themselves to the original arrangements. And it's not just like the lush strings that you would hear on whatever.
Yeah.
It's like Sam's like emulating guitar parts and synth parts. And it's like, the vibes doing, like the pulsing bass or the synth or whatever. I mean, it's like, it's really special and really creates kind of like it's almost like a big band meets an orchestra.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the artists come away feeling super inspired, super invigorated, and like, what are we doing next type of thing. So in the case of Wyclef, he had done all these like kind of seemingly stuffier orchestra shows that are cool, but like he rolls in, he's like, yo, you guys have like swag. That's what he kept saying. It's like, you guys have swag.
Yeah.
He's like, this is crazy, man. Like players, he's like super amped on it. His manager's like, yo, Wyclef wrote 2 songs today. In his
after the rehearsal or something?
After his rehearsal. Like Wyclef wrote 2 songs today because he was feeling so inspired.
Wow.
And I was like, well, that's pretty wild. And so he rolls in and we do the first show. It's like a complete smash. He's doing like a couple of Fuji tunes. He's doing some like solo stuff. He's doing the Santana, Maria. And Wyclef, like little do a lot of people know, like stupid prolific producer.
Sure.
That guy's touched so much shit. By the way, produced, like he was no one realized he produced all the Fuji stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like just an insane producer.
Right.
So it has an incredible year, but is an amazing showman.
Yeah. Cool.
And so the first show is a smash. Literally
Nice.
people standing up at the end, like losing their shit.
Wow.
By the way, like this venue was the opening of a venue at the Citadel in Little Haiti.
Oh, and he's Haitian.
Wyclef's probably the most notable Haitian artist in existence.
Wow,
right?
cool.
So like we had to
really
kick off the
That's really
season
awesome.
with Wyclef at this venue, whatever. So we do the first show, it's a smash. Second show, he's like crushing it. It's even more of a smash.
Yeah.
And towards the end, he's like, yo, I've been feeling super inspired. And we have no idea what he's talking about.
He's saying this on the mic to
on
everybody.
the mic.
Yeah, mid-show.
Mid-show.
Okay.
And everyone's like kind of like looking at him. He's like, I've been feeling super inspired.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to do is donate $5,000 to the Nu Deco Ensemble.
Whoa.
And I want to sponsor a chair.
Oh, cool.
Because we have like a chair sponsorship.
Yeah, sure.
thing.
Whoa.
He's like, I want to sponsor a chair. I want to sponsor this young man right here, and points to the drummer. He's like, you got swag, you got flow. I want to sponsor. I'm like, okay, this is insane. Whole crowd erupts. Like, holy shit, right?
Wow.
And then he goes, I also think I realized that you guys have this like orchestral, like, you know, big, you know, type of presence mixed with like my Haitian, like kind of hip hop vibe. And I think, you know, we could do something really special. And I think we should make a record together.
Whoa. And he announces this.
Announces this on stage.
You didn't know
at the
this was
show.
coming.
I didn't know. I'm literally just, I mean, I think my girlfriend got a video of me just being like, you know, like right. freaking out, you know, the whole crowd's bursting. Sam and Giacomo are like on the verge of tears. I mean, just like what a moment. And that's the type of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an extreme example, but that's the type of stuff that like we provide this experience that is so special.
Wow.
That it really makes it, I saw it as an opportunity, and that's why I hopped into it, man.
Cool.
Is we do something that nobody does.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling this thing could get, you know, where it's touring.
Yeah.
Where it's like Tiny Desk meets Metropole, which is an orchestra out of the Netherlands, and it's a similar type of vibe. Yeah.
So you're very hands-on and like coming up with these kinds of creative concepts, like with the video, like let's make documentaries and let's get in there. Did you set the Wyclef thing up?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like,
I'm helping them book the season.
Sure.
And bring in these artists and taking care of all of that. I'm helping them with content strategy and organizing their content. And then I'm also helping them with relationships. We also did, you know, through the thing with Victoria, I ended up making a pretty good relationship with Jordan. I talked to the Jordan folks and I was like, yo, how dope would it be for this cool hip orchestra to have matching J's?
No way.
And they sent boxes and boxes of shoes. And like, if you go to check out our website, like, it's this like dope photo of like this really fly ensemble wearing matching Jordans.
Wow. So that's really interesting because you now have essentially a pop artist and an orchestra.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking on bringing on clients and you're looking at, you know, just the clients out there, I mean, because I hear all the time from artists saying like, oh, I need a manager. If only I had a manager, I could take my career to the next level and all of that. And so, you know, I'm sure there are artists who are listening to this right now and they're like, man, like Andrew sounds like a great guy and a great manager. How do I get Andrew to manage me? Sure. And like, what do you say to artists who kind of are like, you know, if only I had a manager, I need a manager. Cause I hear that all the time. I get hit up, my Instagram DMs are blown up all the time by people like, can you use your connections to help me get a manager?
Right.
What do you say to those people? Do they need a manager? And what is that like? What's that process?
There's like a Google form that you just like hit me up on. It's on my website.
Sweet. All right, perfect.
AndrewLeibTheManager.com.
Right.
And like, I'll talk to you and I'll manage you.
Jokes.
Absolute jokes. This is something I've like, I get asked like a decent amount. And so I've tried to formulate somewhat of a succinct answer, which is like, at first, you should not focus on anybody but yourself and your art and your music.
You mean anyone, like any industry people?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, the idea is that like, you need to make a bulletproof product just at its core that like, and you need to learn the tricks, like the steps of being your own manager and your own person, because that builds a certain amount of like gumption and resilience that I look for in clients eventually down the line.
So you're looking for artists who have built something on their own, figured out how to make it work on their own,
Yes,
and understand the business to a certain extent, and have been able to build up some kind of audience on their own.
absolutely. Because not only is it a reflection that you care and you want to know about these things, but it's also a reflection of work ethic and hard work.
Because you're looking for someone who's going to work alongside you,
Correct.
right? That's not just going to say, here's my business,
Yes.
you do all the business, I do the music.
That is a massive red flag. Massive red flag.
If somebody says that, like,
yes.
great, I can't wait to pass off all the business, I get to go back to just doing the music.
It is such a red flag and such a turnoff. Victoria and I are partners. Nu Deco and I are partners. It is a partnership. Like I said, we are in the trenches together. These ideas, never would I ever want to be to a place where I just be like, I'm going to rip all this from you and you just kind of do your thing and focus on your music. That's a big red flag for an artist and a manager. The idea is that it's a partnership and that a lot of the like overarching ideas and direction are coming from the artist or in collaboration with the manager, and then the manager goes out and executes it and kind of reports back, and we do like a little bit back and forth. That's what it is moving forward. I think at the beginning of your career, it's figuring out a lot of that, like I said, doing that kind of deep dive on your brand or whatever it might be, as much as you can on your own, and starting to go after it and just trying to make some noise and building up that resilience. Like I want to know, like pretty much every artist, I mean, Nu Deco is a special exception, but like pretty much every artist I've worked with, they played the countless bar gigs, of course. They played to empty rooms.
Yep.
They hit the road and booked their own tours. Like that builds a certain amount of resilience, and they end up generating a great amount of appreciation for what a manager does and people around you do, or they're never like a shitty person to work with.
Because they've done it all before and they know how much work it
empathy.
actually is.
It's
right.
the empathy.
It's that empathy.
Which is so important because you're going to work with so many different people, and your team's going to get bigger and bigger. And like, you can, back in the day, and still some artists, like, they end up being pretty miserable towards their team. And, it's never worth it to work with.
Right.
So like, I want to work with artists that have been through the ringer themselves, that know what they're doing, and also appreciate hard work and appreciate their team, because there are going to be so many days where it's going to be a thankless job and there's not going to be money or whatever it might be. And you just have to you need that encouragement from them, and you need to encourage them. So another thing that talking about like early days is just, I call it blinders, which I kind of alluded to before, which is like, focus on your craft, focus on your art, focus on your business, focus on what's in your control, and put on your blinders. Everyone's gonna be passing around words like managers and labels and things like that. Especially in LA, it's like everyone's like, how'd you get that gig and how'd you get this gig, whatever. Ultimately, if you are freakishly good at what you do at the beginning, and you are, you doing a lot of the tried and true shit of like getting your stuff out there and then getting a little creative with some of your marketing and things like that. And you put on those blinders and you keep working, you keep grinding, you're playing shows, and you're properly spacing out the shows, and you're pushing fans to it. And you're starting to make real fans that aren't your friends, and you're starting to have a song that you like look at everyone's eyes as you play and they light up, and like you're really getting to that place that eventually, usually when you look up from those blinders, there might be a manager shooting you an email being like, hey, when's your next show? Or that DM from the label, like junior A&R that's not going to follow up with you, but it's still a good experience.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm an A&R from Capitol Records. Right. I found your music on Spotify. It's really cool. Or I heard about you on Hype Machine, or I read about you on Pitchfork, or whatever it might be. It's honestly realistic in today that sometimes you can get to some of those places, or, you're getting some buzz and generating, just through tried and true practices to generate some streams and attention.
So what you're saying is really focus on building your career on your own, and, almost when you get to a point where you kind of have things rolling a bit, people will come to you.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone loves, I think there's light reach out that can be done when it comes to a manager and agent. I was just talking to an artist that we know the other day about this, and look at their roster, find an artist that is similar to you, so you have some sort of context, and reach out to them in an authentic way, very succinct, and try and invite them to your gig or pass them a single, and like start to grow those relationships. Oftentimes, sometimes like it's getting in touch with a manager. They're like, sorry, I'm too busy right now, but keep sending me music, keep inviting me to your shows.
Cool.
And then they send you music, and then the music's getting better, and then the shows are getting more packed, and you're getting a little bit of press yourself. And all of a sudden, it's like, I dig what you're doing. You're working really hard. Like, let's do it. That's one way it happens.
So it does seem that, and when I hear from managers, I've heard a lot of managers kind of say that, it doesn't necessarily happen from the first meet or from the first gig or from the just hearing their song in Discover Weekly and saying, hey, I'm a manager, let's sign tomorrow, work together. Yeah. It seems like it's almost like you're saying, even, you get to know this artist for a little while. You're going to see their shows. You're listening to their music. You're a fan almost first. Yeah. And then, you potentially might have a conversation that it might make sense to partner.
A good case study is Victoria and I.
Okay.
Victoria, I found out about her because she covered an Emily King song on Instagram and tagged Emily.
While you were representing Emily.
While I was representing Emily. This was like 2.5, 3 years ago or something like that. And tags Emily, and I see this cover, and I'm like, man, this is like so good. And I did something that like maybe not every manager does, but like I remember what it was like to be in those situations where you're just clawing up the fucking thing and trying to get any sort of validation.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Victoria, and I was like, hey, I'm Emily King's manager. I just want to say I really dug your cover, and I'm going to send it to Emily.
Whoa.
That's it.
That probably made her entire fucking year.
She told me she was lying in her bed at NYU like one night or whatever.
She was a student.
She was a student.
Yeah. Wow.
And she gets a ping, and she's like, holy shit, Emily King's manager. Like, and like that, it ended up doing exactly what I hoped, which is like it made her night, and it totally like got her stoked and excited, and like that made me feel in retrospect, like hearing about it, like made me feel really good. But so I started to follow her and started to see her featured on like this Pickup Jazz account, which we both follow and dig, and
Instagram account.
Yeah,
where they feature other artists.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And started just like kind of keeping an eye on her. Like would respond to like she'd post something like should I drop? She did like a poll. Should I drop out of school and pursue music? And I was like, yeah, do it.
You voted yes.
I was like, drop out of school, do it.
Right.
Like, you should
and she's scrolling through the yeses on her Instagram post like, ooh, Emily King's manager says she drop out of school.
Right. Turns out she
Hey,
ended
Mom.
up getting picked out of school by Michael Franti, touring the country with him for a year, singing backups in his band, and she did drop out of school.
An opening for him, right?
An opening for him, too.
Yeah.
Got her chops on the road, figured out what it was like to be on a touring artist. But totally was hustling on her own up until that point too. She has a crazy, amazing story. But we saw her at South by.
Right.
You and I saw her at South by in front of 20 people at a bar at
like
midnight.
1 a.m. Yeah.
1 a.m. She's wearing like this like NYU sweatshirt and like was great.
20 people like at most.
Yeah, 20
at
people
absolute most.
And you and I are sitting there. I was like, that was really good.
Right.
Like, solo piano, like
Very impressed.
super impressed. Still was like wasn't in the position to do it. Like it was early days, and we still kind of stayed in touch. And I ended up having her open up for Emily King at the Apollo, like super epic gig.
Whoa!
Emily's hometown show at the Apollo, and Victoria opened up. And she did a couple other shows, and like she'd maybe hit me up for advice and stuff. And eventually, I was working under a guy named Jonathan Azu, great manager who was my mentor for a while, and I was day to day on his projects. So that was Emily King, Cory Henry, Luke James. He ended up leaving Red Light to start his own company, and I stuck around at Red Lights. Therefore, I kind of had to restart my roster. And Emily had been talking to Victoria and was like, yeah, Andrew's probably looking for clients. Like maybe you should get in touch with him again.
Interesting.
So I had the call with Victoria, who I'd started a relationship with years ago, and she'd asked advice. And I saw her at South by, and was kind of like checking in, like following her on IG and figuring out like what she's up to and like seeing the progress. And she then sends me this pack of demos that fucking knocked me out.
Wow.
These demos were like I mean, they blew my mind.
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
received demos that were like, they weren't even like, I mean, I guess they were pretty fleshed out in retrospect. Like we changed a lot in the finals, but like just great songs, man. Just like bulletproof fucking songs.
Cool,
and
cool.
such a talent
Yeah.
and such great energy.
Yeah.
And then I'm like digging into her story and I'm like talking to her and all these things. And I was like, man, you know, like this is how it happens, right? Like
Yes.
this is your pivotal moment. You're just getting off the road with Fronti. I'm looking for clients.
Huh.
You seem like a good fit. You stand for everything that like needs to be represented right now. We're vibing as people. We ended up catching up
Yeah.
at a red light, talking a little bit. And then next thing you know, like we're working together and it happened. That was one way to do it, right?
Whoa. I mean, but that's so cool because, you know, that just shows, I mean, from the time you saw that first Instagram video of her covering an Emily King song to when you actually signed her to Red Light, how much time was between that, would you say?
I want to say that was like 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, a year and a half, 2 years.
So this is really like, you know, where artists are kind of like, I need a manager tomorrow. It's kind of like, well, why don't you, you know, this is like doing the thing.
Yes, man.
Building the relationships.
Yes.
And it's kind of, you know, I mean, that whole story is just shows it's like it happened very organically.
Yeah.
And like you were giving her opportunities before you even thought to manage her, just because like, oh, Emily King needs an opener for New York. Oh, Victoria I know lives in New York. Oh, she's amazing. And, you know, let's, you know, you put her on that, but you're following along. You're seeing when she gets press things written about. You're seeing when she gets featured on other things. So you saw that her career was building and she was developing her career on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you were at a point when the stars aligned, when you were seeking new clients, she was seeking a new manager. It kind of just worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I understand the blinders thing now because she had her head down, focusing on her career, wasn't clawing at every manager's door.
No,
It wasn't like a desperation, please sign me, please work with me.
No.
I can't do anything without a manager.
She was hitting the road. She was
doing
building
it.
her fan base. She was releasing music. She was being her own boss.
Yep.
She had been through a couple managers at that point. She was lucky enough to have a couple managers sign on early on that like didn't really work out, I guess.
Okay.
And yeah, she was focused. I mean, she was starting to like, you know, think about it, but she was also completely ready.
Yeah.
She ended up, when we talked, she presented me with this amazing pack of like her tour history, her merch, her financials, her password, whatever. Like everything was all laid out because she had prepped it because she was ready to do a lot of this stuff herself and create her own goals and milestones. And just like be your own boss. And she was completely ready to do that.
Wow.
I came in, took all that, kind of reorganized and re-strategized, and then, you know, started to work on her behalf. But like, you know, she was ready and had, you know, a business acumen to get, you know, get it going.
And she's a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old.
At the time, she was 20.
Wow.
She's insane. She's insane. The girl's a massive hustler. And like, that's a lot of the time what it takes.
Yeah.
It's like put your blinders on, focus on your craft, be fucking bulletproof.
Yeah.
And know about your business. And a manager should be so lucky
to
get in your world.
Yeah.
A manager
should
be so lucky to be a part of your world.
But at the end of the day, for you, it was because of the new music that she sent you and you connected with the music. And because like when you say be bulletproof or the product needs to be bulletproof product, you mean music, right?
Yes, I mean music.
I mean, you know, we talk a lot about business and, you know, obviously I wrote the book on the music business and it's all about, you know, all the extra stuff you need to do. But then at the end of the day, it really, the most important thing comes down to the music. And it's nice to hear from, you know, a manager that you care about the music aspect too. And that is actually paramount. And like,
I'm such a music head.
Yeah.
And like such a music head. And it's really important to me. And it's interesting coming from the world, which was like, I was super into jam bands and like funk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now like I've gotten into like jazz and R&B and now I'm like managing like an indie pop artist, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So like ultimately it's just for me and a lot of managers, good music. You know, you might have a genre that you like bend your ear towards and like you can have certain press connections, whatever, especially in the jam world. It's like, you know, pretty contained sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, I'm a sucker for universally bulletproof good music.
And so, and of course that's subjective
Totally.
in some respect because, you know, good music to you would be different to another manager who, you know, might represent hip hop or might represent folk or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, so that's also interesting when you say if you're you know, think that you're at a level where you could partner with a manager because you've done hundreds of shows, you've released a lot of music, you've built up a fan base, you're at this point where people are paying attention. You've built up a career. You actually have a business to manage. You're not just like an artist who can draw 27 people to your hometown. Like you actually have a business.
Yep.
And so you mentioned earlier cold reach outs, and there is something to that because I'm from the Midwest and I know how challenging it was being in Minneapolis as like an island away from LA where all the industry is, and just like not knowing how to do anything or who the industry is or anything like that. But you mentioned like looking at managers who represent artists similar to you. So, I mean, I guess you reverse engineer that in a sense. You find artists similar to you and who their managers are, because managers have musical taste.
Yeah.
And like you have a certain kind of music that you really connect with and gravitate towards. And other managers probably gravitate towards other kinds of music. And so you start to see managers, their rosters like, oh yeah, that makes sense because they kind of, they have taste. And at the end of the day, that all comes down to the music. So would you say then kind of reaching out once you have a business, you reach out to a manager and you just hit them up and what does that look like?
So I think it still seems, it starts with the recorded music usually or some sort of content.
Okay.
Or it's like I have a pack of demos or I have the song, like check out the song. And when I get reached out to, it's nice when it's like super simple. They know who I am and like know that it give me the context in which you're reaching out.
Yeah.
Like, are you a metal band that wouldn't make sense, right?
Right. It's not like, hey, red light manager, rep me. It's like, oh, I saw that you
represent Victoria Canal.
Yeah.
I sound like these type of artists, or I've opened for Victoria when she was on tour,
Cool. Yeah.
Because I'm like dealing with so many tour dates, and it's like,
awesome.
But it's like, cool. You worked hard enough to open up for Emily King on a local date or whatever back in 2015, whatever it might be. So like that's a good point of entry sometimes, or getting an intro or something like that. Keeping it super succinct, who you are, what you're doing, what's coming up. Maybe a little bit of press and some of your music. And ideally, for me at least, I'd love to see a live show.
Cool. So you connect to the live thing.
I connect to the live thing. And that's usually a good place to show off a little bit too, right?
Cool.
I'm such a sucker for like raw chops.
Yeah.
Like I don't want something produced and like, auto-tuned in the studio to a place where it's not recognizable on a stage.
Okay.
When I say bulletproof, I mean you and your craft too.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sing in a fucking cardboard box and it's going to sound awesome,
Sure, yeah.
Like you can sing in whatever setting, piano's maybe a little bit out of tune, whatever, it makes it charming because you're such a great performer.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I gravitate towards.
Cool.
Where, I want to see you at your show that you think is really important to you, and you invited a lot of people, and you've been promoting it and working hard, and it's going to be packed, and I come out and you put on a great show.
Yeah.
I oftentimes still, like, if I get invited to a gig
and
it makes sense, like, I'll go.
Yeah. Wow, just of an artist who you don't necessarily know, but invited you.
I can't speak for other managers if they still do that as they get older and maybe get a little whatever.
Yeah.
But, maybe they need the cosign from their buddy, or they happen to catch the opening band at this gig or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I'm still at a place where it's like, you send me the music, I see something's going on, I see you're working your ass off, like I'll go to the show.
Yeah. Nice.
Good place to do that in LA specifically is School Night.
Okay.
It's a free show.
Yep.
It's every Monday.
Yep.
It's a comfortable place to be. I know like the people there and stuff. I'll roll through, I'll check out your gig for 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yep.
Then I'll bounce and like, that's a great place to do it or whatever.
The School Night showcase at Bardot, which happens every Monday night. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Started by Chris Doritas and Matt Goldman, and
thank you for the context.
Right. For the listeners, yes.
School
But
Night
it is a very
showcase.
prestigious showcase of Los Angeles where a lot of emerging
Billie
artists,
Eilish,
they all started there.
Yes, yeah. I mean, a lot of people, that's their entry point in LA because it's a great free invite type of thing for industry, and it's a great spot to invite folks. Yeah. South by was another example, right? Like Victoria invited me to her South by gig.
Right.
And we ended up going to it. We had a big schedule of running around all over the city, checking out bands here and there. Victoria was one we popped into.
And it wasn't about how many people are in the room or how the crowd responded, because
that
everyone
one specifically,
was asleep.
Yes. South by is a very actually special place in which it's still relevant, I think, because You know what? Like if I saw you were buzzing and I go up to the venue at 1 a.m. and like happen to catch that day, and no matter who's in the room, whatever, like I'm at South by to check out music.
Sure. Cool.
I'm there to meet people. I'm there to do all that stuff. Like that still is a thing that industry, like label reps, managers, agents, brands, they're still going down to places like that.
So don't let anyone say that there's no discovery at South by anymore, because you've discovered a few artists there.
Yes.
I know similarly, we ran in from a rainstorm. I think it was probably that same year, and we were just looking for some shelter from the rain and something to eat. And the front desk at a hotel was like, oh, there's food at our penthouse bar, take it to 18. And so we took the elevator up and we go in, and there's this guy singing his heart out over there with people listening, and we're like, whoa, who is this? And that was Luke Wade. And you got him a publishing deal a year later because you kind of stayed in touch and discovered him at the South by. And that's the thing. It happens.
That was a really special thing. And that was an amazing moment. And he totally deserved that. He actually, when you think about it, it's like, talk about bulletproof.
Yeah.
The dude was like, the elevator door opened, we heard his voice, and I was like, what the hell is that?
Right.
You know, like, that wasn't just a circumstantial. I mean, I guess in the way of me hearing it was, but like he played many gigs and did many things. He was on The Voice, and worked his butt off to get to that place.
But that's not why you were there.
No,
right.
I walked in that door, I heard it, and I was like, that was it.
And that's why I say, luck is merely when preparation meets opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
And so he had prepared by hundreds of gigs or how many before that. And
he didn't know what he was preparing for in that moment.
Right. But that opportunity arose, and you rise to that occasion.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Andrew Leib, thank you so much for coming on the show. I have one final question that I ask everybody, and that is, what do you think it means to make it in the new music business?
Doing what you love, traveling the world, making connections. I think I think it's just making this in life, actually. One of the best things about working in the music business is it's such a relationship business. And if you can get to a level where you're calling people and it's no longer an ask, it's more of just a favor because you're homies with them. If I can call up Bruce Warren and XPN in Philadelphia, if I can call up Chris Doritas in LA, if I can call up Sonder in the Netherlands when I'm there to grab a bite with him, or whatever it might be, eventually it just becomes like this web. And if you can have that across the world, locally, domestically, internationally, that to me is like not only making it in the music business, it's making it as like a human being. And that's a beautiful thing.
Nice. Well, cool. Andrew Leib, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Frank.